Garcia Outdoorsman.
Okay.
We've been landscape company for about 5 years now.
Great.
And we're just hoping to eventually have a legacy like you. Is basically what it's
That's
at.
nice of you to say.
Chance Jones, Threaded Industries clothing brand.
Okay.
Been doing that for about 3 years now.
In Tulsa, I assume?
Tulsa, yeah.
And then you
Online
sell-
e-commerce
Okay.
mostly.
Great.
And then
Very
before that, it was trucking. So
cool.
trucking. Yeah.
Trucking.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Oversized heavy haul.
Very cool. Right on. Great.
All right, you guys ready?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it. All right, welcome back to an episode of the Brews Business podcast. I'm your host, Braden Cruz, joined by Abel Rodriguez and Chance Jones. We're with Mike Bausch, the owner of Andolini's Worldwide, co-owner, as I should say, you and your brother, right?
Yep.
And from his family, from the Marine Corps legacy to the inception of Andolini's Pizzeria and the Worldwide brands, to the diverse range of those brands, the journey, the flavorful mix of the hard work and the passion that he's been. We're going to explore the quality and the insights from his book, the Unsliced book, and the power of sharing that knowledge. So let's grab a slice of pizza and join us for this mouth-watering episode. Mike, welcome to the Brews Biz podcast.
Right on. Thank
How
you
are
for
you?
having us. Or me, rather.
Oh, yeah. Well, thanks for having us, too.
Yeah, of course.
You're the host, too, right?
Yeah, for sure.
This
So-
is kind of nice to be out of the studio and just being actually
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
set. It's cool.
We usually record in the Blue Studio. So give me a little introduction about yourself.
I'm Mike Bausch. I've owned Andolini since we founded it in 2004. We opened... Do you want me to do that? You want me to tell them? Or you good?
Oh, keep going. Yeah,
Okay.
you're good.
I know the
I
background.
mean, we'll catch some background
All
noise.
right.
Maybe it'll give us some quality on
it's just
right? Yeah.
yell the click clack as opposed to the yelling. I don't know if you want to.
I don't know if you're going to yell at them in Italian or what. I had to shut up. No, it's fine.
Hey guys, we're recording, so okay. The volume. You're good. Thank you. All right. Sorry. I'll say it again. I'm Mike Bausch. I opened Andolini's in January 8th, 2005, but had moved out here to Oklahoma that summer before after graduating college. So I graduated college with a poli-sci degree and went to law school and said, no, this is I went to orientation. That's as far as I got. And then my brother, who's vice president of Alamo Rent-A-Car at the time, was transferred here to Tulsa, but really it's Owasso, and asked if I wanted to open a family thing with no other preconceived notions other than that. As a 22-year-old, I drove halfway across America, and we opened a restaurant, deciding on a pizzeria 6 months later. I liked pizza, which is not a high bar. People will be like, did you always want to open a pizzeria? I'm like, no, nothing about my life trajectory said opening a pizzeria in Tulsa. It was more likely going to be a JAG lawyer turned regular lawyer in San Francisco. And I'm very happy that's not what happened. So I started a mom and pop, well, just me alone, with Jim working most days for Alamo in Owasso in 2005, and grew it to the point that we opened Cherry Street Andolini's 6 years later. It really should not have happened any earlier than that. A lot of people assume, well, we're going to open this restaurant, we'll have another one open in 9 months. That's really a dumb idea when people think it's going to you're going to have 30 in a year, because the systems aren't there, the brand isn't there, the culture's not there. It's like a comedian finding their voice. You can't. Most comedians are funny and can do a joke, but they don't become Chris Rock their first day, or
Right.
become Chappelle, or whoever.
Time
you
is
want
part
to
of the equation in that.
Exactly, and the voice of it. I liken a lot of things in business to music, or even comedy. When we have a menu, I think of it like a playlist, or a new album release. Those things are very parallel. So anyway, I did that, grew Andolini's to be 5 Andolini's pizzerias, a food truck. We opened up some stuff at Mother Road Market, some other brands over the years, but the core thing that we do is pizza and Italian things in different iterations. Even our fine dining restaurant is just another iteration of fine dining Italian.
Have you been to Persimo's yet?
Have not.
We did the classic, with the cheese wheel. What's the entree?
It's
Really
the
popular.
Il Vero Alfredo. So it's classically an Alfredo would just be fettuccine noodles, usually, store-bought noodles and cream with Romano. This is the fresh made noodles that we make in house in a half
freaking
wheel of
good.
Parmigiano Reggiano, and then we take brandy, pour it in, light it on fire, and then as we're spinning it into the Parmigiano Reggiano wheel, that's pulling the cheese off and coating the noodles. So it's completely unique to that experience.
There's a video
Yum.
of it on TikTok. You can watch it. It's pretty
Yum.
awesome.
I need,
I'm
I
gonna
need to
take
go.
you up on that date night, Braden. And I think I know. Where
I
I'm
told
going.
you I do it. I told you I'd watch your kids while you go out. I owe you for it. So you got a Marine Corps background, is that correct?
Yeah, so the Marine Corps, my dad is a retired lieutenant colonel who who volunteered to go into what's called Officer Candidate School in 1966. So Officer Candidate, there's enlisted enlisted boot camp, and you sign your life away if you're not going to college. My dad was going to college. He had a wife and a kid and another kid on the way, and said, I need to do something bigger, and signed up for the Marine Corps. And at that time, immediately into the Vietnam War, fought Vietnam, came out, and then revitalized how the Marine Corps does recruitment, and which is a lot like marketing. So I don't think he realized that it's the same beast as what I do today. In that time, Jim, my older brother, went into the Marine Corps in 1985 as enlisted, and came out like normal. Like, he did 4 years. He's like, this is cool. And Desert Storm happened right after. Not like he was getting out because of it. No one knew about it. So he avoided Desert Storm. My nephew signed on right out of high school and did 2 tours on Iraq. And before then, in 2002, I signed up for OCS, Officer Candidate School, like my dad. Went to Quantico, Virginia, did all of the training, but I went in at 170 pounds, and then I was 165, and by the time I was done, I was 135, and I did not know I had type 1 juvenile. And as a result, I just was whittling to nothing. I did all the training, came home, and after running miles each day, I didn't even want to walk upstairs. And I went to a hospital to see what was going on, and I got immediately put into the ICU for 3 days.
Oh, wow.
So after that, I was like, okay, I could do a lot if I set my mind to it. Shift what I was going to do with my life. Also, planning on doing JAG law, that went out the window, and not having law school paid for went out the window. So when I still went on the path of, like, might as well still apply to go to law school, got accepted, went, and I was like, I don't want to pay for this garbage. So
Yeah. Which
that
law
helped.
school did you apply to?
Oh, I applied to many, but I settled on Golden Gate University in San Francisco, which is where I got accepted.
Okay.
Cool.
Nice.
I got a question for you. You mentioned how you had proved essentially to yourself in the military that you could go through that training, you could go through that hard stuff.
Yeah.
That at that point you felt like you were already, and the only reason I'm bringing this up, I had this conversation with a new hire here recently. As men, we hit these stages of life where we feel like something bigger has to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was the military for you. You were working on something bigger, you said that, and it didn't work out for you, but it didn't change the goal of working on something bigger. And you more or less proved to yourself that, hey, even though it's hard, I can make it through this. And even though at the end of it wasn't exactly what the plan was,
Yeah.
but look at what I did, and I survived. And look at what now you're kind of on.
Sure, I think it's an important thing for all young people, especially young boys, to do stuff that's uncomfortable, and that's become more popular as a topic today. But I inherently was doing that at a young age. I never was great at anything, but I did stuff that I was aware to do things that I thought I couldn't do to get the knowledge of how to do them. So I was signing up to do debate when I was like really afraid of public speaking. I don't have that fear anymore.
I love debate class.
Yeah,
That's the best.
I was doing public government stuff. I signed up to do wrestling, and I hated, the amount of physical. I saw it was the hardest physical thing at school. I was like, okay, let's do that. and see where it goes. I would have done football, but it took up at my high school. You had to go to school at 6 a.m. and stay till like 6 p.m. and I wanted to do other extracurriculars. So anything that seemed scary, I kind of was like, all right, the only way to get over it is to go through it.
Right.
And then I did rugby in college, which was way harder than I thought it was going to be. And just doing more and more things. And I was very aware to try and have as much background as possible. And looked at my developmental age as like developmental age. It's not, let's be comfortable here. I never looked at it that way.
I can agree with that. I've done almost all the sports except tennis and baseball.
You never did baseball?
No, I did basketball 14 years, soccer for 3 years, football for 4 years. I did taekwondo. I did BMX. Done some cool sports, but then I've also had 15 jobs before I got started.
Yeah.
Wow.
15
Yeah.
or 17, something like that.
Experience.
I was like, I want corporate, I want small business, I want retail, I
Just a
want
little bit of
hospitality.
everything. Right.
I want give me all the experience, and so I can understand like how they function on different levels. You know?
Right. And I think that's a good point because, again, there's a mentality you're building when you're learning these new skills, right? It's what am I learning from this particular place that I can take to the next place or whatever. I brought that up because in my essence, I have a car that now really means nothing to me other than it taught me that I could do things.
Yeah.
It taught me that I could do things that I genuinely had no idea what the hell I was doing, and it could come out actually really good on the back end.
Yeah.
And it's going to be one hell of a journey, but at the end, you look back and you're like, wow, I did that. And now look at all of the skills that I learned because of that have taken me to the point where I used some of those skills yesterday. And it's like, I actually haven't done this in a few years. I don't know if I still do it, but the repair held. And it's like, it's all these skills that over time, whether you're starting a new business, starting a new sport, a new job, whatever, you're building those skills. And I think that's what, like, the biggest thing is we're developing. Like you said, you're developing the years, and that never really stops. You know, we're continuously learning as we evolve what's the next phase of life that you should be learning and improving on. You know, I always say to people that, you know, your dreams and your goals should change, because if your goals are the same as they were in high school, you've got problems. I mean, your goals should be bigger, especially if you start having family and kids. Like, it starts to get much bigger. And I think that's a great driving force of constantly evolving your dreams instead of just thinking, well, you know what, I'm happy with this job. I could be here for who knows how long. And yeah, maybe eventually, you know, I'll get a bigger job or whatever. It's like, no, how about you just try stuff? Eventually something will click. Something will drive you to that next step. Don't just stay settled in this whatever you're doing at the moment.
I think that I totally agree. I think it's a big fear, or it's a trap to get, oh, I'm good at this, let's stay here.
Yeah.
And with restauranting, especially, restaurant's really interesting dynamic as a business and an entrepreneurial journey, because most assumptions are, well, I'm good at making X, steak, pizza, sandwiches. I should sell that professionally. And that is just the price of entry. It just gets you in the door. It doesn't do much of anything else, because it's the amount of HR, marketing, system generations, business savvy, just you quickly stop doing that thing. You have to systemize it and then not do it again and verify it's getting made right by everyone else.
Yeah.
And then you could do it and keep it street on the weekends and make sure you're still able to throw dough and things like that, which I do today. But in my first year, I was making the dough in the morning and then just doing so much that it was a fool's errand if I didn't systemize it or get someone, getting a 17-year-old stoked about a restaurant. That's the secret sauce to making something happen in that environment as an entrepreneur, that people are like, well, I'll be successful. I have a great steak. And it has absolutely nothing to do with that. To those people, because usually, the people who usually have that very, very dumb thought, and it's an extremely dumb thought, is, well, I'm great as a doctor, but I don't want to do my practice anymore. I'm a really smart lawyer. I've always had success, give it to me. So this dumb thing over here should be easy, and I'm great at making X, so I should go do that because I'll have the same success, and it always fails.
I love that you say that.
Yeah.
I think that's something we talk about all the time. It's like, people don't really understand how much of business is this. Like, we started off mowing yards and doing very simple tasks. Like, it's simple, but like you said, you're starting at before the break of dawn to get as much paperwork or maintenance done as you can. You're out doing the work during the day. At the end, you're doing all the paperwork, and you very quickly realize that any said, it's the hardest part that I think you guys have done a great job about is the quality. You know, no matter which Andolini's you go to, what you order, it's always the same. Ah, that's good pizza. Like that's literally what happens every time. I'm like, man, that's good pizza.
If you read the one of the Starbucks books, there's a couple of them, but they talk about how consistency is extremely important. You can have a coffee here in Tulsa and then go to the other side of the world, get that same coffee, and it's going to taste exactly the same. The
Yep.
process is repeatable.
Well, and I think the point here is you can't scale a business without that, without the consistency of the systems and the processes. It's impossible. We're only one person, and no matter how hard you try, and I think the dumb thought of, hey, I'm really good at this, I can do it. You don't understand that if you're building a business, it's not about just doing that task anymore. It's about taking care of that whole circle of people that are involved in this business, which then becomes very overwhelming very quickly.
And some people are really good at their trade.
Oh,
You may be
absolutely.
a great chef. That doesn't mean you should start the business.
Doesn't mean you're a
It's
great
okay.
business
So
owner.
I want to ask you a difficult question because we talked about this last week or a couple weeks ago. Would you encourage someone to just get started in business or cover your ass and prep and prepare, study, and then start once you have the knowledge, the capital, and the connections, etc.?
Answer would be a scientist, not a perfectionist. A perfectionist is going to say a perfectionist and die a perfectionist and never live. A scientist has a hypothesis. I think I know how to do this. Let me try it out. Okay, that didn't work. Let's go back to my hypothesis of if I do this, X will happen. Go back, formula, theorem. And that's where someone gets into their dream with no goal. A dream of like, I want to be a rock star, as opposed to a goal is, I want to get a guitar, play this, go on stage, get a manager, build a team, go to the next venue. So I would say go out and do it. You'll network through action. You'll network through doing. And years deep into this, wanted to start a new business. I'm like, well, I'll just start mowing lawns today with my one lawnmower. No, that doesn't make sense for my time value. But when you just have stupid nothing to yourself, if you're 20, then absolutely. Like the 20s, you should just give up your 20s. Everyone should give up their 20s to experience, or they could give it up to a job. But if you give it up to experience, then the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s are yours. If you give it up to someone else, then it's theirs and you are beholden to them forever.
Yeah.
So
That's great. That's great right there.
Can we
That's
drop the
money.
mic and drop?
Yeah, that's money right there. Give up your 20s.
give up your 20s and lose and fail and take it on the chin and learn and do everything that's painful and traumatic shy of something that's going to hurt everything. I believe you should try to have it help your health, your wealth, or your relationships. You got to give up your relationships in your 20s. Your health, just sleep health, that's going away. But don't develop a cocaine addiction. You're pretty much okay in that. And then wealth is just understand don't go into lose money, go into debt. They're like, oh, you're going to go into credit card debt. If it's going into credit card debt because you tried 5 websites that failed, okay. If it's because you went out and bought 6 different TVs at Best Buy, that's not smart.
They're different.
Exactly. The return on investment of that is completely different.
Yeah. In my 20s, one of the things I said earlier on, I was like, I want to make as many mistakes as possible and learn so I can gain first-hand experience and also make as many connections as I can as well.
I had one of my favorite customers tell me, he's like, in your 20s, dude, you work like you've never worked before. He's like, and experience everything. He's like, because you can actually do it in your 20s. He's like, and then your 30s come around, the responsibilities start piling up. He's like, you got a house, you got a family, you got kids. Then your 40s come in. He's like, and frankly, at that point, you're just tired. You kind of want to start relaxing. He's like, in your 20s, put it in now. He's like, because there's those people that try to do that in their late 30s, early 40s. They hit that midlife crisis. He's like, and now they're so far behind, and they don't have the energy to do it. And I know that a lot of times, we don't feel like we have the energy to do it, but it's like we don't know what it's like to be, 40, 50, and they're like trying to start something. And it's like Mike says, just give up those 20s. And yeah, it sucks. You said sleep kind of goes out the window some, especially if you're like us. We have some new babies. Sleep definitely goes out the window. But you have to put that experience in trying that. We have businesses, so we're constantly trying to evolve those businesses. And it's like if we don't do that, our businesses are going to suffer, or our futures are going to suffer. So you have to do it now while you can. You know, dude, I can't imagine trying to start my business now, being 35. Like, especially as my goal being financial freedom of 35, that would be horrible. Now, with that thought process, is like, look at all the things that as business owners we're able to try and experience. We made a good point is whenever we first started, we all think, hey, we're good at this task, right? I can make a good pizza, I can mow a good yard, I know how to market. But then you actually start a business, and I'm kind of turning this towards, hey, we're business owners here. So much new experience comes with starting a business. You mentioned 5 websites, right? If you spend that credit card debt, start 5 websites. I love that example because I know between us, there's been multiple other failed businesses that may or may not have been LLCs, that may or may not have actually made it, but every single failure led to that next win, right? Yeah. To the point that eventually we had something took off, enough to pay the bills, enough for us to put effort into it. And then comes the other failures of, well, now you run into, the IRS. Well, that's a failure you're going to have to deal with. You can't just run from it. Then you run into, insurance. You guys wreck into another car or something. That's a failure that you're going to have to deal with it because you have this thing you run into. And with being a business owner, I love how much experience you get in marketing, sales, customer relations, networking, or just building relationships with people in general. The biggest one, time management. You find out that that's the biggest hurdle between all and most, I feel like, business owners is understanding that, at least what I'm seeing in my business, I catch myself thinking as the business owner from the 1 to 5 years where I have to remind myself that, hey, you're no longer that person. Your business is no longer that business. You have to start thinking as 5 to 10 years. You hit that 5-year mark. Now you got to start thinking in the future. What I used to think was risky 1 to 5 years ago is now risky to not take that chance. And it's crazy because those experiences have led up to that point. So you make a very good point of, hey, if you're in your 20s, you're trying to start a business, just go after it, get it going, because you'll learn, right? You will learn those processes, you'll learn those systems. But at the same time, it's like if you never take that chance, you're never gonna. There's never an opportunity.
There's
for you to
never an
learn
option to succeed.
Right.
Yeah, and the network is a very ubiquitous term. Like, the assumption of networking is you're at a chamber of commerce meeting with a bunch of real estate agents, and you're like, I don't want to network. That sounds horrible. You're like, I'm not even in real estate. Like, and I say it because I've been to a lot of chamber of commerce meetings where it's people who are looking to network and meet people looking to buy houses, or doctors who are just looking to get a free lunch and
chiropractors.
Yeah.
It's so
insurance agents.
If in a network scenario, my network opening Andolini's, I'm calling up pizzerias I grew up on and saying, hey, I'm opening a place. I'm not competition to you. I'm just wondering how you do this. Again, so 2004, before the world vastly changed, pre-Facebook, pre-Twitter, pre-YouTube, by only 3 years, but I opened with just at the edge of the nothingness. The name Andolini's is Andolini's because my Italian name is Carlucci. And that was already copyrighted, or I thought it was, by a guy who's now my good friend, Joe Carlucci. And I had to come up with an A name. Why? Because the phone book mattered.
Mm-hmm.
First.
They want to be first in the phone book, which doesn't matter at all now. But back then, that was your Google listing, so.
Marketing experience right there.
The world has shifted significantly, but back then, I'm calling up pizzerias, and they're like, there's no sharing of information. It was still the old world. I'm saying, hey, how do you do this? And one guy, I've been taken for a ride. I finally found a guy who did talk to me, and his name's knows anything about pizza. The beyond Michael Jordan of pizza. He wrote the book, The Pizza Bible. He started the World Pizza Champions, and that's the team that did the Guinness record with me. And he was out here to break the record. He's on Masterclass, the actual one, not like someone saying they have a Masterclass. having him be my pizza Yoda or Obi-Wan, more Obi-Wan. That was a luck thing, but also choosing a right mentor. But at the same time, I never said, hey, let me come work for you. I just watched what he did. A lot of it's just observation. When I opened up Cherry Street, I was like, we're going to make it a big beer bar. I'm so excited. And then he said, well, you should see my bar. I looked at his bar, and I was like, oh, wow, your bar is like a bar, but you're a pizza place. And he's like, yeah, look at how much money I'm going to make off this one bottle of vodka. Okay. So I probably had, in the first 5 years of knowing Tony, all of combined 30 minutes of conversation with him. But observing him over and over and over again, and always being willing to just call and say, hey, I had one question. He's like, great, shoot. And that's terribly. What's their funnel look like? Okay, how many people are on their staff? When you sign up, what happens? What's their billing? What are they charging for? And say, hey, I need 15 minutes of your time for that. Here's a gift card. Here's the thing. Here's all I want to know is how are you getting? I can't find out how are you getting people to apply. Oh, well, I do this with high schools or whatever it's going to be. And they're like, oh, okay, I get it. Then act. And being really respectful of people's time. Because some people will say, well, I'll just go intern there. And they end up just being a copy boy and thinking they're getting information. It's not the case.
So I want to say,
I didn't want to
we went to
interrupt,
the, me and Braden went to the world record
Yeah.
pizza thing. That was super, super cool. What kind of processes led up to setting up to be able to, whether it be renting out where you did it or, getting all the pizza made? What was the processes behind that?
It's a very long story. I'll make a quick story. The original, the team was coming into town, and we were doing a project that we haven't announced yet. But so I had all these pizza makers coming. Hard, I could pull that off. Then once Guinness is a pain in the ass, hard ass.
That's what I've heard.
They're not like, hey, welcome to Guinness. That does not happen.
Yeah.
And then once we had, paid our vig, then they gave us the rules. And I was like, holy crap. At that point, it was, all right, let's go, Buttercup. Let's do this. And the rules were, at that point, I just figured it out. And my original venue was going to be BMX Tulsa, but it was going to be in January, and that's more of an outdoor venue. That was scaring me. Hit up our PR firm. PR firm said, I think this makes better sense at TU. I said, great. What can we do to parlay it? And then hitting them up because they were serendipitously trying to build their student life program. Well, what if we did this on top of a basketball night? Sounds like a win. And then just rolled with that, saw exactly the math of it, and then it just became a big-ass catering order. It was a big-ass catering order. And
How many pizzas did you make?
Well,
roughly, if
the
you know.
pizzas for people to eat. It's because we made 3,400. We had 3,400 servings of 2 slices. So you take 3,400 and divide it by 4, and that's how many pizzas. And then we also felt like jerks because people are going to come to have all this pizza, but it was going to be 2 small slices. To people who don't know, the rules on this event are insane. They have to eat. If you're just like, hey, get a bunch of people to eat pizza simultaneously, not hard. That's why people are like, I could do that. You can't. You need 2 pizzas, slices, a choice of pepperoni, sausage, or cheese to be fully consumed, crust included, with a drink for this amount of people, at this point 3,357, to simultaneously eat it in unison with a proctor, i.e. a mini judge, for every 50 people verifying that they ate it, did not leave, that they consumed all of their drink, that they consumed all of their pizza because Guinness has a hard no food waste rule, and that all happens, that they do it for a minimum of 15 minutes. So you have to keep that many people in a set location to eat food not move for 15 minutes. So and that's why I'm not a cocky man, but I believe this will not be beaten for a very long time, for the reason that to get that many people on board means you got to have a little bit of an underdog can-do spirit. So Joe Blow in the middle of nowhere, America, doesn't have enough people. If you're in LA, they're gonna be like, "Where's my pizza?
Yeah.
Get away from me."
Yeah.
Okay, I'm leaving. I already had it. What are you guys doing? Oh, I can't stay here that long. New York, Chicago. That's why all three of those cities failed. I think Tulsa pulled it off because everyone was down for the win. It was like, hey, we're all going to get a Guinness record. We were giving away not just the pizza, but it was to Make-A-Wish, and they were getting a shirt for being there. So we layered it, and we also really, really locked and loaded. We had a good plan. I locked and loaded hard, probably out of spite and anger when I found out Pizza Hut was doing the same contest 3 days before us.
I remember
They're like, Iraq with YouTube and so I'm like, YouTube money and Pizza Hut money in a tier 1 city of LA is doing this. And they were not saying, I was also super annoyed at Guinness because they said that they would tell me if someone else tried for the event. They told us that 3 weeks ahead of time. So
Too late.
So I was like, all right, let's change up the idea. And we were going for like, because the record was 1,100. So the YouTube guy was saying, he was saying that they were going to go for like 5,000. And they had Young Gravy performing.
Yeah.
But they did a few things just categorically wrong. I had a friend I hadn't talked to in years go to the event. I was like, here's $100. I need you to FaceTime me the whole time and show me what they're doing. That's why I'm still super annoyed. To anyone who listens to this podcast, they're so annoyed that they then also did the world's largest pizza, which Guinness for some reason was not making them abide by all the standard rules. And then it got advertised on the Super Bowl, because they did a Super Bowl commercial, world's largest pizza, the same night they did the world's largest pizza party, but they failed the pizza party, which they failed to mention. So then it kind of jettisoned our push on, like the media cycle never was like, hold on, the world's largest, that already happened in LA with the world's largest, no, that's world's largest pizza. We did this.
It was a weird, confusing
Yes.
thing, and like on social or if you Google search it, like you're gonna find Pizza Hut stuff unless you're probably here in Tulsa.
Yeah.
But if you type in world's largest pizza party, it was fascinating. Up until that day, it was everything. They were live streaming, live on YouTube, all that. The day after, you cannot find one thing about that event today. I'm like, YouTube was all, let's take that out of the algorithm. That's not there anymore.
So why'd they fail?
They failed.
And why did, so bear with me on when I say this, right? Playing a little devil's advocate. Why did a small pizza chain here in Tulsa, that's local, community-based, whatever, right? Versus a national pizza chain
with influencers of huge YouTubers.
Money,
That's a huge feat.
It's a huge difference.
Yeah.
How did you triple the record and how did they fail it?
The fun, nice answer is that we had 50 of the best pizza professionals in the world doing it, as opposed to a chain that was like, okay, some marketing.
So you made actually relevant connections and relationships with people in the industry who were able to bring in influence and impact.
They just know how to do an order of that size and know how to feed.
Oh, okay.
Like we had the 50 best pizza makers. Like Tony Gimignani, the guy who's the greatest pizza maker in the world, was there with us. We've done so many community involvements that we knew exactly how to get people in their seat, how to be cool to people. On the very, very, I'm almost hesitant I'll say why they super failed. They made their pizzas too big. They also didn't check people as they were coming in. They did it like dumbasses on a Wednesday night. They said, hey, it'll be free if we don't have enough, we'll let people come in. They assumed that people were going to clamor. They were going to have thousands upon thousands of people. Well, it's Wednesday night in LA, and people are like, this guy has 10 million views on YouTube. Yeah, who is the 10 million views? 9-year-olds. 9-year-olds don't drive. So They all, if you looked at the crowd, it was 9-year-olds and their parents that they convinced, we got to go see Eric.
Yeah.
So they got 1,000 of those kids, but then they're trying to make it all fun and everything. It's just a free-for-all. They have the proctors. The proctors have not been instructed what to do. So they're trying to like count up who has the pizza. You see the Guinness guy on stage is all, what do you have? The proctors are trying, and like, who completed the pizza? Because Pizza Hut gives them these big ass slices. It's little kids. If in our rules, I was like, no little kids. You could come, we'll even give you pizza, but you can't count as a person because I'm not afraid of you messing up our numbers. Other massive factor in this extremely hard contest is, let's say I had 5,000 people there. If 10% DQ, so if I have 4,500 that do it right, 500 that don't, it's a total fail.
Oh, wow.
Because of their rules?
The rules. You cannot have over 10% DQ.
Ooh.
So when I'm doing this, I'm thinking, okay, well, if I have a bunch of little kids there and they're all, oh, I don't eat the crust, and the parents, he doesn't eat the crust, that's a DQ.
Mm-hmm.
Every single one of them pushes us closer to that number. So if it was 2,000 people that are there, it just takes 200 to not do it right, to get up to go to the bathroom or whatever. So we had a video, we had rules, we had a sheet on the box. We were entertaining them. It was free. There was a T-shirt. We had done so much to make sure it was in our high likelihood of completion.
Yeah.
Do you remember the conversation that we had about, it was over text earlier on this year, and I know you probably have plenty of text messages, but I asked you, I don't know how you do what you do, but I want to learn how you do it. And you responded and you told me that a lot of this stuff is in your book, the Unsliced book. But you said, as for this, it's crunch time. You just have to move forward, lock and load, put one step forward and continue. And that's for vision. Sometimes you just got to do some cool shit, knowing it'll lead to more cool shit. And instead of wanting the immediate payoff.
Yeah.
So, like, you said that, and I think of the Guinness World Record stuff, and then it leads on to the conversation of how you continue to innovate in your industry, right? Mm-hmm. And it's more than just innovation in a new menu item.
Yeah, I like to lead. I like to not follow a trend, but see something I dig and then try and do it the way I like it the most. And if that's first, great. So in Tulsa, we have done Napolitana style before anyone else, and Roman style, and that's one aspect of it. Even the book in Guinness, like a lot of people were saying, what's the win of this? What? And I was like, it's a Guinness. We got a Guinness win. Like, no, but it's just so that you can try and get people to do. I'm like, no, there's not another thing.
It's just cool.
This is what it is.
It's and even when I wrote the book, I went down to I did a book writing course. I was there with the guy who was teaching the course is a New York Times bestselling author, Tucker Max, who basically wrote Bro Culture. That people go into your X or this business or that. Like, I just have info in my brain. I want to get it out. And I'm seeing the spin now in culture where it's like, give as much value as possible and then do your ask later. I was inherently doing that a while ago. Now that I'm doing, helping other small thing. You get like, if you sell a book for $25, you get around $6 off that book. So if I sell 100 books, you're like, $600 is not going to move the needle. And very few people sell over 10 books a month. A book becomes like a, say, oh, you wrote a book? Ooh, author. So it helps get you, but also most books, not to be a sassy Sandy, but most entrepreneur books, you can tell, you look at it, if it's under like 150 pages, you're like, this is a glorified pamphlet about yourself. I'm not speaking about
biography.
And then I realized my body was changing, and it's like, what does this have to do with selling ads? Like, there's so many bad entrepreneur books because they don't have someone who is saying, this is giving no value to the reader. What is the purpose of this book? So my purpose was to really say, hey, Joe Blow restaurant business owner, especially, and I went niche on pizza, but the book 95% applies to all business. This is how you build, this is how down on paper and get it out of my head. I was very happy to do that.
So you can compete with price, quality, or convenience, but you can't. It's very difficult, and I've heard that you can't compete in all three spaces. Now you stand with a strong core philosophy of quality over everything and customer satisfaction.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about how you've instilled those values. Like, where did that come from, and how's that practiced every day here in all the brands?
Well, it came from just not wanting to suck. Like, most of it's the inherent thing of
Step one, don't suck.
Yeah, right.
given, I worked at a fine dining restaurant. I'm very lucky in how many things I naturally just gravitated towards without knowing the rule. Like, gravity existed before Sir Isaac Newton said it did. There's certain things, like I worked at a fine dining restaurant. I said, I like dealing with people that want to be where they're eating. If you deal with a commodity item, if you're at a very basic restaurant, pizza, whatever it is, you're dealing with people that are just there to eat as opposed to stoked to eat. So I said, let's make the best pizza place possible. There's a lot of information now about trying to make a premier product is way easier than trying to go after, well, they're at $30, we should go for 25, because now you're commodity. And then someone's going to be at 22, and you're in a race to the bottom. I wanted to make the best product, and some things were just out of laziness, like straight up lazy. Down to Oklahoma City to get my liquor license, come back, and they're like, oh no, you also need another one for 3-2 beer. I'm like, I'm not doing that. We're selling this. That's it. Call it a day. We're going to sell good beer. Let them figure it out. And it became a brand signifier. As time went on, it was like, I like this pizza a lot. Let's sell this. Let's sell like really good ingredients. And then we'd have customers who really enjoyed it, and other customers like, well, I want to have a buffet. Well, we can do pizza by the slice unlimited, but I'm not going to do a buffet. Mm-hmm. And then I noticed the clientele was higher end, but even at that point, we then had to find a way, how do we appeal to the blue collar and be white collar, which is the thing about Oklahoma that's unique in business. Mm-hmm. If you're in Dallas, you could have a pure white collar restaurant or a pure blue collar restaurant. In Tulsa, you got to do both. Pretty much got to do both, unless you're like really killing it pure white collar in the heart of Tulsa. And what I mean by that, think about what's a blue collar and white collar brand simultaneously. A great example would be Chick-fil-A. You could be a Sperry Catoosa worker, or you could be a Lululemon mom. That's what makes this market so damn hard. It's what makes the first 6 years of Andolini so fortuitous, was learning how do I speak to both, but be premier more than anything else. And the quality of it, well, if we're doing the best thing, then we'll win, because now we're fighting against, a very small circle that we're trying to beat. If we're trying to be the easiest, most convenient thing, we will lose. And that works in most business too. And who's kicking everyone's ass when it comes to convenience pizza? The natural thought. What do you think is the best convenient pizza in Tulsa?
Domino's.
Domino's?
It came to
Simple Simons.
Domino's is most convenient?
And who's going to kick all their asses in the race to the bottom? The most convenient of convenience, who has within a football's throw of us right here, 4 locations.
Caesars?
Quick Trip. Quick Trip's going to kick all their ass. And that's why they've done all this effort, all this money, and they're still going to lose.
Because they'll have the QT kitchens.
There's always
There's
someone who can...
convenience built into QT.
Who can out-convenience.
Yeah, there's
Right.
always someone.
But it's a lot harder to out-quality.
I love that you bring that up, because that's something that a lot of people don't think about, right? And I want to touch back at, we keep reiterating Tulsa. We said it so many times in our podcast. Tulsa is fantastic for building a business, for a young business. Tulsa's booming. You have the white collar, blue collar, and everybody here just takes care of each other. They really do. To get, like you said, in LA or New York, to get all those people together for a Guinness World Records, it's not going to happen. In Tulsa, everybody's like, hell yeah, this is cool. This is for Tulsa. It's not for me. It's not for you. This is for Tulsa as a win. You don't have that everywhere else. It's amazing.
Totally.
But, man, I lost my train of thought with that. Whatever.
It's quality over everything.
Oh,
That's pretty
right.
much-
Okay, so,
bam.
yeah, thanks. But you make a great point of the business end of things, right? There is something that a lot of people don't understand because they naturally, we all are human beings, and before you get into a business role or into, frankly, any role like this, you're constantly looking at the price of everything. You're looking for the deals. You're looking for where am I getting the most convenience, the most price, and so on and so forth. But you don't realize until you become a business owner that those deals as a business owner are death. They're death. They're literally, you're just waiting for the next person to come out with the next best deal, and then all of a sudden you lost all those customers because there's no loyalty there, right? So if you build on quality first, you build a loyal customer because there's a certain expectation. Now, a lot of times those same customers will not go out and they won't call those bottom of the tier guys because they don't want that quality. They automatically, like you said, you take yourself away from a commodity and you now become a service that people actually want because there's a certain quality expected here. Now, I've realized in our business, because we've started to make this shift over the past few years, that the market will still bear everything you need it to bear.
He's over there.
The market will still bear what your business needs to bear so long as you show that value. But the competition is so much less. Reason being, I noticed this is, and again, not throwing shade at anybody, but you can go onto any Facebook group, any HOA group, anything like that, and you ask somebody, hey, I need somebody to mow my yard. You will get 5, 6, 7 different names of all these people with the phone number.
Oh,
that
maybe
say,
100.
Call this guy. Yeah, call this guy.
700 people.
But very few people will tag a company or there's a company involved in that. It's just all these people, right? But you notice there's 10 different people that all do the exact same thing. And when they show up, they're all going to show up the exact same way. A nice work truck, 0 stickers, 0 anything. There's no brand to this. There's no quality to it. You're just hiring the next guy that'll mow the yard for the price you're willing to pay.
Yep.
Now, once you get into the higher end neighborhoods, those people still need their house mowed. And not only do they still need their house mowed, they're less willing to go buy a mower when inflation comes in to go mow their own house.
They don't have the time to do it anyways.
Exactly. They're going to continue to have that mow. But not only that, I feel you have officially taken yourself out of that roster of those 10 people who just have no name, and just that is their name. That's what they do. And you're putting yourself into a different category of people where they want quality. And frankly, in my industry, they want somebody that can come after you if you break a window or you break something or anything like that. They want somebody they can call and say, hey, fix this, or I'm going to sue you or whatever, right? In that, I've realized that there's really only about 4 companies that I compete with in Tulsa. From the hundreds of people that you're going to compete to
And
mow
again,
a
not
simple,
everyone's a competitor.
Exactly. To mow a simple $35 yard, all I have to do is increase pricing slightly, increase my quality tremendously, and stick to my guns with, hey, I don't offer anything less than this service. And if you don't like it, there's plenty of people you can realize that you're now not competing against all those people, and you'll have those specific people. And frankly, that customer, like you say, you want that customer that comes here that wants. Exactly. So it's funny you say that. I love that you say this. Like, there's nothing wrong with competing for quality or convenience or price, but you make a very good point that in those 2 realms, there's a lot more competition because the average person always is looking for deals, is always looking for that. But there doesn't mean there's not a market for a quality service, a quality product. It's still there, but your competition seems to diminish tremendously, in my opinion.
I totally agree. My take on it, and what I advise other restaurateurs to do, is you're seeking the goal of increasing purchase pride and reducing purchase anxiety. To your point about the brand on a branded truck, a clean website increases, well, it definitely decreases purchase anxiety. And then purchase pride can be done by like, hey, just so you know, your ex was treated today with this, and here's also some treats for your dog, and here's this other thing. It's like, wow, they did this, and they did this, and they did this. I do that because of that reason. So now you're uncommoditizing yourself. My favorite example of that is a maid in LA who's in a sea of maids, because everyone has their house cleaned professionally, and it was like $130, $120, $110, and she bought cookies at Costco, the cookie mix, bakes it, has it there waiting for you when you get
I
home.
think I've heard that story. So it
And
smells
now-
like fresh baked cookies when they get home.
And
It's genius.
Cost nothing. I mean, $1. Now she went from the $120 maid, so now she's the $175 maid, and then she has a whole fleet of maids that are all doing this cookie thing for the extra cost of $1.50 at worst in food cost to have the house. But no one could buy that. I can't physically buy some random to come into my house and make it smell like cookies for me when I show up at 3 o'clock. Could I stop and get cookies? Can I do this? Yeah, but I want to do that.
Yeah.
I want that to be the thing. And now you can't leave her. If you do, you're sacrificing this other thing. So it doesn't become the same business. And that's the differentiator. So there are the guys who win the best pizza in the world contests. Some have great restaurants. A lot of them have that pizza being sold in a blank box in a shitty part of town, or it's not, and not dive ambiance, cool, fun, crappy,
Right.
like just bland, just a bland building, and you're like, okay, and they have an empty restaurant. So to get the purchase pride to increase, it has to all come together, and really the logo, the brand, the crispness of it differentiates why someone could buy the same outfit at Ross or Saks Fifth Avenue and feel vastly different and feel happy about their purchase, even though they spent $60 more on the same damn thing.
Right.
And we have, there's times where you bulk up and there's times where you lean out. Right now we're not leaning out, like more in the terms of evaluating everything, tightening up, making every single thing more efficient. And when I say that in a restaurant, we've always made profit, but to get to that level, to get to that point, usually you try a bunch of different stuff and you try things, and some are winners, some are losers. Then you go further on the winners. Pizza is a win. Increasing our menu next month, we'll do a new menu with new updates, more pushes on that, but at the same point, leading into the training, we want to make each individual store more individual in the next year. Get what it's doing now, let's try it this other way and see what else could be done. To the outside consumer, they're probably not going to see a lot of change, but that's our main focus currently. On top of that, I'm taking with my book and my stuff I'm doing, I'm helping other entrepreneurs who reach out to me, especially pizza owners, but restaurant guys, and just doing group Zoom calls every now and again. So people that are interested in that can check me out on Instagram, and that's something I do for the restaurant. I'm two things. I'm Tulsa famous and I am pizza famous. Pizza people know me because what we've done here is not normal. Not many pizzerias are independently owned, have this many locations, and have a whole town behind them. And other pizzerias want to get to that point, and I'm not gatekeeping on it. So I do this type of stuff with those types of people.
Well, like what Abel will say, there's plenty of grass for everybody.
plenty of grass for
plenty of
everybody.
mouths for everyone to
Yeah.
eat pizza. Started, right? Because they say make connections, build relationships, right? Network. And then this is going to be a variable answer because it depends on your industry, but in your own words, how do you know you're connected with the right people?
Look at who's doing what you want to have done and do that. Don't, if someone's if abundantly seeking to give you advice, don't take it. It's a tightrope walk. Like the network thing, you don't need, if you're, again, let's go lawn care. You don't have to just see other lawn care businesses. You can say, okay, who else has done a startup in my town? Who knows the towns? Who else has done this type of thing? Seek people who are succeeding in some capacity, and instead of, hey, give me something, seek to give them something from the first step. I've always gotten further networking being their friend rather than their fan. You pulled that off, and just being a human to people, because even people that are successful want others around them. And the take of it is so again, if you're young or even if you're in your 40s, sales is the same way. You're selling yourself to someone. When someone says, "Hey, buy my thing," it's not interesting. People get over it. But when it's, let's have a conversation, let's talk. What else can I do to help you out? Anything else I can do to maximize? Just want to be in, and you start to just be in their circle. Through osmosis, you pull what you need. You know, Rockefeller, the first true networker, was Rockefeller, who would meet people. How is this guy, you know, what by today's standards would be billion upon billionaires? And he didn't do it with a tech startup. He did it fascinatingly based upon what everyone talked about. He did networking before networking was networking. Yeah. He did it before it was just old boys club, or after it was an old boys club, by having his very famous Rolodex of something like
over 1,000.
Yeah, thousands upon thousands of cards in a Rolodex, and then knew everything about people so he could lean into them first. So you know that story. Interestingly enough, you know who was the first Rolodex company, or the best to use it? It's a Four Seasons. Pre-computers, they would say, okay, here's this guy is coming into New York Four Seasons, last name, you know, Henning, and he likes a gin and tonic. Sometimes travels with his wife, sometimes he doesn't. Great. Okay. And then they put it out on the wire back in the day. Henning is staying with us at Washington, D.C. Okay, Mr. Henning likes this and this and this.
Gin and tonic is going to be ready for him when he walks through the door.
And that, it blew people's minds. But it was just leaning into individuals, seeing what value you bring to that person. And over time, obviously, they bring value back to you by return business.
Yep.
3 points left, and then we'll wrap up. What questions do you have for us, if any?
The vision's interesting. What is your guys' vision for each one of your brands?
Abel?
Man, okay. So ideally, man, the vision is to build this company to where I could make the dreams happen of my employees. I obviously, being in the landscape industry, I'm surrounded by a bunch of Hispanics, and I see my parents, and I get to see these people, and I get to see dreams that unfortunately my parents didn't get to see come to fruition. But thanks to my parents kind of setting us up and being here and everything, my hope is I can make their dreams come true. Whether that go back home to Mexico at some point to bring their family here, or whatever that is, some way, shape, or form, help make that happen. Now, I understand, and I tell them all, like, hey, ultimately, like right now, the way I can do that is by giving you by the time you come back, I'm ready to bring you back on and everything. But ultimately, man, I just want a group of people that, I just want family. A business full of family, people that take care of each other. I want to make their dreams come true, and in turn, my dreams come true. You know, something that very simple, but I get to be with my kids a lot nowadays. That the average person my age is working a 9 to 5 or whatever, and has to go be at the drop of a hat somewhere every day. And because of my guys, I get to be home for lunch every day. I get to go and do things that I have to do with my kids, whether they're doctor appointments or so on and so forth. Now, a lot of times I still have to give a lot of late. Naturally, eventually, my dreams will also come true.
Really?
I'd say financially, it'd be a $20 million agency, be able to provide some opportunities for employees similar to yours. And I love helping. I love business and marketing and sales, and I like surrounding myself with people that like my employees that have that same passion as well. And so I would also say I'm working on a vision statement, like to be able to help X amount of businesses be able to do X amount growth over this kind of time frame. Like something that is more smart related than just, oh yeah, this would be cool to do X amount in sales for us. Like, no, like I actually want to make an impact on a certain number of businesses, and I want to be a part of their journey and their success and stuff too. And it'll happen in due time.
Great.
So Thread is mostly online e-com, and we outsource everything right now. But what I want to do eventually is bring everything into Tulsa, have a warehouse here, bring thread into the company, build a product, and sell it. Everything made Tulsa. And that way, all the friends and family that want to work with me and build my company, that's what I want to happen. Brick and mortar here in Tulsa.
Very cool. That's cool. If nothing else, get the name purchased by Meta, get a new business. I don't know if you got it.
What's your favorite item? What's your favorite item on the menu? On any, it could be Andolini's, Persimos, or what?
I think our DeMarco Brooklyn is our signature item, and it's just the perfect pizza, and it's almost, I can describe it as, it's a cheese pizza, or you could say it's olive oil from the Puglia region of Italy, before and after, at the table, fresh basil, pecorino romano from Italy, San Marzano tomatoes, again, not just buying it from Italy to buy it, but it actually makes sense with fresh mozzarella that we stretch in-house. It all comes together with red rock salt. It's a perfect pizza. On top of that pizza, the Peppa Pig with Peppadew peppers and pancetta is a dark horse that if people have had it, they're like, holy God, that's so good. So that's my two favorites. And at Prossimo, the Picari vodka pasta. I love, carbs all day. That's a big winner.
Where can I find the book?
The book is a real book. It's where all books are booking. That's where that book will be. So you have Audible for the audiobook done by me, 6 hours of my voice, recorded here in Tulsa. The book is on, it's the only place it's not is like, I think it's even a few local bookstores, but for what it's worth, go to Amazon, type in Unsliced, type in Mike Bausch, it will pull up. It's Barnes & Noble, anything that's a book. It's a
paperback,
real book.
hardcover, and Audible. Yeah.
So, and not all books are real books. So you're like, where can I get? It's a real bookie book.
I love the cover design. Did you do that yourself?
The company I worked with was just the same people who did David Goggins' book did this book.
Oh, nice.
Oh, nice.
So I worked with that team. And Goggins bet on himself. Goggins had that story, and he went to this company, which is a very interesting. It's instead of a publisher or a self-publisher, it's a partner publisher. So they help you write the book in the sense that I wrote it all, and then you get a professional editor who then professionally tells you as you. Cover designers who are working and gave me 15 covers, modified it, so it's a great process. I'm proud I did.
Awesome. Well, Mike, we really appreciate you taking the last hour to record with us, to share your insights and knowledge. And I know that's also one of the things that you favor doing. It's why you made a book. You want to share the knowledge, pass it along. It's why you do those Zoom calls. You want to share some of the knowledge and wisdom, pass it along to help other people grow too. So we appreciate your time. Thank you everyone for tuning in. I hope that you guys have enjoyed today's episode. If you have, let us know in the comments, like, subscribe, leave us a review. It means the world to us, and it helps other people find us and find the podcast. We're curious to hear from you. So if you have an idea, a topic, something to suggest, you can reach out to us. Cheers, happy brewing, and grab a slice at Andolini's.
Right on, guys.
It's delicious. Thank you.
Thank you.